All right, well, thank you guys for joining us for another Health Truth Life video. We are back at the Matrix again. We're going to be going today over Matrix concept number 18, which is outward focused.
Yeah, outward focused.
Outward focused.
Man,
Yeah.
So just kind of, outward focus in this sense, and why I put it in here is just that whole component of, man, in my life and just in general, what I see with lots of people, but this is specifically for me, maybe you guys can agree with this or disagree, certainly, is that whenever I'm stuck in my head and only focused about myself and or my issues, my problems, what have you, I'm not then typically in a place of joy because I'm worried about my own issues. That doesn't mean I don't have time whenever I have time for myself to have rest and recreation. But when I'm worried and focused on just my problems, man, I can be my worst, my most worst enemy.
Yeah, when we're inward focused, we do tend to be more stressed. Yeah, we worry about things more. Yeah, we get stuck in our head a lot, you know. But if we take that time to look beyond ourselves, outside of us, and to see how we can meet others' needs, man, you're right. It fills you with more joy, more peace, more hope. Yeah. So that's what we're going to cover today.
Yeah.
So being outward focused means being present in the moment, paying attention to what's happening around you. So not being so self-focused or self-centered, but striving to see and to help meet the needs of others around you. You have the first line here, I love this. It says, a man attains success when he accomplishes great things for himself. However, he manifests significance when he utilizes his gifts and passions in service to others. And to me, I love how this falls in line straight after vocation. This really flows well with what we discussed in our last video. If you haven't watched it, go back and check out the vocation when we released it last week. Actually, it was Monday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this week, but yeah, great video, and it falls right in line with what we discussed over vocation. How once we see our lives as service, to others, and not just here, we're not just consumers. And I think that's just a struggle in America, especially.
Yeah.
We're kind of taught that it's about us and what we can consume and how much we can gain and attain,
Yeah.
And then we end up frustrated and more stressed.
And constantly on the hamster wheel of success to beget success. And again, it's not to say that success is bad, financial or otherwise. It's just that when you're looking for significance, I think that's where you find peace. And when you have peace, that lets you get through those storms of life. And I think that peace is found in serving those outside of yourself. So I think that, when Jesus says the greatest command is these, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself, he's basically telling us, look, that's the secret. The secret is get out of your head. Like, there's a spiritual connotation to all this, but the point is, it's a very practical connotation that just people, even secular individuals, understand this, that service gets you out of your head and gets you out of your own problems. So, I think it's just it's a profound, simple concept, but when applied, you see just that spiritual component just take over, and that peace that manifests.
So good. I was also talking about other scripture that covers this in Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 12. It's the verses where he's, saying, ask, seek, and knock. And then he talks about, giving good gifts to your children. But it's interesting, at the end of this, he says, so in everything you do to others what you would have them do to you. Then he says, for this sums up the law and the prophets. So I thought that was interesting because it totally ties in with that as well. It's service to others. How do you want people to treat you? The golden rule, do unto others as you want done to yourself. Man, think about that. Like, as you see people out here that have needs and you serve them, isn't that what you want done to yourself? So
absolutely.
I love Jesus sums this up so well. And there's another verse that you kind of get into here, but it is truly greater to give than to receive. And we hear this a lot. It's so funny, right? When I read this, we hear it at Christmas time all the time, and yet the focus is about, the gifts and what I can get. But you painted this picture so well, and you say, the irony of this apparent contradiction is never lost on me, as I excitedly watch my sons joyously open their holiday treasure. but knowing that seeing them receive good gifts from me and my wife is better than any gift I can receive. And I feel that too, like for sure. Just watching how happy my boys are when they get the gifts that they wanted, you know, and they feel that love and excitement, and you're just, man, it's so much better to see the joy in their faces than if I got the best gift I could get, you know, myself. You want me to pause and get that? Are we good? What do you guys think? Should we answer the phone? We'll let the voicemail get it. It's fine. Let's keep going.
Okay.
All right. So, get to the kids. Yeah. And it's better to give than to receive. So, yeah, we as humans recognize that in order for our children to survive and indeed thrive, we must sacrifice a good portion of ourselves to their survival and advantage. Addedly, as our parents and loved ones grow older and potentially more dependent, we have the benefit of being able to shepherd them through new life seasons and potential health struggles. So this idea of, you know, service, and it's better to give than to receive, being outward focused, man, it's a lifelong, it's been given to us by God, I think, for us to, it's a lifelong way of life, a process of life, you know? And so I'm walking through this with my grandfather right now, as my mom and my aunts and uncles are kind of going through it. So it's neat to watch and to learn, and to be there to help however I can through this process. And I know that you're going through this as well with your parents.
Yeah. And there's a blessing and it's a challenge, but it's just so neat to see the circle of life kind of manifest with things like this. But then whenever you're able to serve someone who has served you for your life, you know, and I see that for my father going through this phase of life, is it's just a blessing to kind of be continually reminded of that, and it gives you this just incredible feeling that you can't describe outside of you know these concepts. So
it does seem like that's the natural process, the way that God designed it is. Because we're helpless as infants, and that's what you're getting at here. Like, parents have to be sacrificial. Like, they have to lay down their lives, their sleep, their time, their money, you know, once you have kids and start that process. And then, we grow old and we get to this point where we become dependent again on
kind of like infants or toddlers again, you know, so.
And it saddens me sometimes when you see our society kind of like, it can happen this way, but where parents, as they get older, kind of get, like, we'll let other people take care of them, we'll just pay the money, and, you know, and I know there are circumstances where that has to happen, but it almost seems like it becomes a chore, like they're in the way, you know, like they're going to interfere with my life if I have to take them into my home, or if I have to take care of them, you know. And so I'm not there yet, so I'm not trying to judge, but it's
a tough choice, and I think that, you know, you also think, okay, well, if you're going to exhaust yourself or challenge your relationships by living in the same place, I've heard and for that from patients too, that hey, they just can't live with their in-laws and or those who they're trying to care for because it creates too much disruption. So that's where a professional caregiver may be something to consider, you know. So I think it's you know, because life is tough. People have to make sacrifices regardless. As you know, these situations, you know, take place.
I guess that's key. Praying through it and finding that balance of what works best for you and your family, and
absolutely,
anything you want to?
No, keep going
along.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So in addition to the role we are privileged to play in serving our families and children, attending to the needs of others, i.e. our neighbors, often results in a lowering of one's own anxious and depressed thoughts, as we talked about earlier, as our cares and worries are brought into the perspective when we meet others during their times of need. And this next sentence is great. Being able to lift a burden of another, even by a way of a small favor or act, typically results in a rising of our spirit and theirs.
Absolutely.
And I think we overcomplicate it, because it's something as simple as just texting someone you haven't talked to in a while, ask them how they're doing, you know. Serving a cup of water, like it's something so simple. And this is an example that I wanted to talk about, because it is so simple, but it's a good example of how, if we're paying attention to what's going on around us, we can meet simple needs in people's lives. When I first started working here at HealthTruthLife, shortly after I started, there was a couple of gentlemen working out here in the flower bed, and it was a hot day. They were sweating, and you just walked in and to come into work for the day, and you were like, "Hey, do we have any bottles of water?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, but why? Why do you need them? He goes, I just grabbed me a couple, And so I went and grabbed you some waters and gave them to you, and I watched from the office, and there you just walked around the corner and handed these two men a bottle of water, and I'm like, man, so cool.
Forgot.
Yeah, but it's just neat. Simple moments like that. You just were present and aware of these men's need, and you did something so simple. But to them, it probably meant so much more.
Yeah. And what does this require, though? I mean, you guys can comment below as well. But it requires margin in your schedule. Like if you're so focused on getting steps done, getting successful, you've got to recognize that, hey, you got to step back a little bit in order to find that significance. So it requires a little bit of margin in your schedule to make sure that you have time and energy to allow your person to do that. So it's
funny I think about that, because a lot of times we get so busy, and I think about, again, I believe Jesus was the best example of this. So he was and is the best example of being outward focused. He slowed down and he saw and met the needs of those around him. He literally was on a mission to save the world. So you can't get busier or have more of an intense job than that. He was literally on a mission to save the world, but yet he took the time to slow down and meet the needs of those people he was present with.
Individually,
So when we're like, I'm too busy, I have too much work to do, or I have more important things going on.
But what's also interesting to not put the burden on is that, hey, he got away into nature and disappeared for many days,
he did.
to kind of get with his Father, and so I think that he's modeling this way, kind of a rhythm of life that
recharging,
leads to balance.
Giving, recharging.
Absolutely, and you have to have, because you've only got so much to give. Like you only have so much to give, and with the burdens that have been put on us in life, find ways to where you can unburden some things to allow for margin, to allow you to be more outward focused, which then leads to this, I think mental, emotional, spiritual connection and this neurochemistry that changes whenever you're serving someone else and you're outside of your own head. It changes the way your brain fires. And there's literature to show this. I don't have articles here, but the point is, anyone who's in psychiatry, neurology, or just in medicine knows this. The neurochemistry changes when we are doing things to serve others rather than focus on our own anxious thoughts. It's functional MRI and the neurotransmitters, all those are known to change, and they're known to actually be able to see that, with imaging and with tests.
And having this mindset, this concept, and applying it has profound impact in a lot of areas. We're just thinking how it easily affects your marriage. If you go into your marriage saying, what can I get out of this person, rather than having a heart of service and serving them, you're going to be frustrated. It's never going to work the way you think. But if you go into it with this servant outward mindset and focused on that, man, you're going to be so blessed.
That's where fireworks take. I mean, it's where synergy happens. For sure.
So I love this too. You say, indeed, being outward focused allows us to discover why we were put on this earth, and that's for relationship. It's totally, and at its best, relationships function and thrive in service, when you're serving each other.
Absolutely. No question.
So Christ states in the New Testament that the greatest commandment, we went over this earlier too, but love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. He proclaims that all of the law and the prophets hang on these. Implied in this declarative is the presupposition that one loves himself, as it would be counterintuitive to assume that we should love our neighbor as ourselves if we first do not love ourselves. And you say, but wow, how radical and impossible, as well as impractical, does this order appear to be? And how can we do the impossible and impractical? Only by the Spirit of God can we find the ability and resources to love beyond that which is humanly conceivable. And so
it's almost inconceivable to love someone as yourself, right? I mean, so then, gosh, do we love people like ourselves? And I'd say that probably not, right? But I mean, when we are doing that and we're seeking to do that, you enter this dimension that's outside of your own realm. And I think that's where that just being mindful, that's why I put it in here, that we should be mindful about that, because the more I live outside of myself into other people, that's where life is lived. That's where significance is found.
Yeah.
And that's just where, I think it's where we're supposed to be. That's where peace manifests, you know. And it's just
probably, I just was thinking about this, probably another reason why Jesus did go to the wilderness and spend time with his Father, to get back to that, focus and that heart and that mindset. Because he was tempted in every way, a human just like we are in every way. Yeah. You know? So he had to go to the Father and be like, help me, be outward focused, help me see and serve and love these people around me like you do, you know? And
the only way to do that, he's got to have that physical energy, that margin of his own schedule of what he was doing. And you see those that do that well, you know, in this day and age, you know, they've got people monitoring their schedule. They don't, you know, push themselves to a limit where they can't function, because then they're not going to be at their best at serving others. So at some point you have to say no. You got to say no to certain things and certain priorities and/or, you know, distractions in order to be able to serve best, you know, and be outside of your own head. You know, we all have to work on that. I know. Yeah,
we do. I know. Saying the word no, it's hard to do sometimes. Yeah. But so after this, you say, knock, seek, repent, submit, and obey. So what did you mean by having that at the end there?
I think that, you know, it's just profound directives, right? Yeah. Knock and the door will be open unto you. Seek and you will find. I mean, those are just like, those are declaratives that are just so, they got spiritual connotations, but they've got practical connotations. Hey, if you want something in this world or in this life, knock and knock on that door. Keep knocking on that door. Seek and you will find it, you know? And I think that in this respect, with respect to, you know, taking care of others and being outward focused, I think it's just submitting yourself to the Spirit of God with everything you do, and then just seeing those opportunities that just manifest outside of, just outside of just what you can comprehend and what's conceivable. I had something happen this morning. I was actually, my wife and son are away visiting a college. My other son was with me this morning, got him up early for school, and I'm reading that book, Atomic Habits. So I'm like, you know, every morning or every afternoon, evening, I want to try and read something to Wesley, just to kind of get his brain flowing. I said, Lord, just give me something to read to Wesley that'll, you know, inspire him and or provide something for the day. So I read like 2 pages on the cerebellum and how it's important with, you know, obviously movement, but it's increased in size in people who are musicians. And so it's so funny how I read that right after praying, hey, you know, God, give me something kind of interesting to say to Wesley, to have a neat connection with my teenage son. And then all of a sudden I read the first paragraph and he's like, oh, Dad, we're talking about the cerebellum right now. Oh, wow. and so that's cool. In school. And so the point is, it's like, oh, wow, you know, that's how the Spirit of God works. And like, of course, you could see that as a coincidence. I don't. I see it as a divinely orchestrated just tapestry. And so that you see whenever you seek. And you won't see it unless you seek. Wow. You really won't see this. Yeah. You'll be blind to it. But when you seek and when you live your life in prayer, these things happen all the time. Like it's just, it changes your focus. And so, again, it allows you then to focus on other people, because you're not going to be in your head if you're in the Spirit. You're not going to be. Yeah.
What's cool too is I think those opportunities are all around us every day to like serve others and to see other people's needs around us. They're there every day. We walk by them and we miss them all the time.
All the time.
All the time, yes. But if what you're saying is true, and if we take the time to pray, seek, and ask God, like, you'll see them. All of a sudden you walk out your door and you just see them everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know? And then all of a sudden too, you realize, oh, I do have time to talk to this person. I do have time to give this person a cup of water, you know?
And then sometimes you actually have that experience and you go, I don't not have the time. I need to have this time to have this, because this is life, whereas the other is death. I mean, that, you know,
man, like that's so true. I've had plenty of those moments where I've felt like I've given up something, and then at the end of it, I'm like, this was what I was supposed to be like doing in this moment, you know? And I got life out of it, and that other person got life out of it, you know? So it's so rewarding. That's the beautiful thing about this, is as we take the time to meet others' needs, we are uplifted. We are given life. They are given life. It's just a beautiful process.
Absolutely.
So you have some action steps here at the end. So where do opportunities exist today to serve your family, community, or neighbor? And like we just said, these opportunities are everywhere.
And then start small. I mean, honestly, my suggestion would be start small.
Yeah.
One little thing, and again, ask yourself these questions. Hey, where can I serve? And the answers will come to you. Like, they really will.
Yeah.
Again, ask.
Yeah.
Seek.
I like that too. Don't get overwhelmed because there are needs everywhere. Like, I could see people getting overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Who do I serve? But start small, just little steps, and take action.
Yep.
Are you a noticer? Being able to recognize when another is in need. Pray about that. If you're not, if you think you're not, pray about it. God will show you. He does this to me all the time. If I slow down and ask and I seek and I knock and I pray, and He shows me throughout my day. I have plenty of opportunities.
And then what can prevent you from being a noticer? What are the habits that you have that are preventing you from being a noticer? In my experience, it's the phone and the distraction of that which is in front of me. So again, I'm mindful of when I have it, and if I do have it, to try and put it away whenever I'm around other people, but also not bring it into places where I want to engage with others. So not bringing it in church, not bringing it into, and again, this is a judgment if you bring it in for other things, but bring it in for, obviously communicating with your kids or something that you have to.
Sure.
That's fine, I get that.
Right.
But in places where you want to get quiet and or engage with others or serve others, if you've got that distraction right in front of you, are you less or more likely to serve others and engage them in a way that's meaningful and significant? And I would say in my case, I'm not as effective. Not as effective. So I got to put it away and engage that person. Same with like seeing patients. I have conversations with patients where I have a medical record note that I'm doing, but I make sure, and I'm trying to always be mindful that note and or that computer is not right in front of me all the time, because then I'm not able to engage with them in a way that is intimate, and meaningful if I've got this computer right between us, right? So just thoughts.
Yeah, be mindful of that. Technology can definitely get in the way. How can we better manifest a spirit of service in our home and our community?
Yeah. Got some answers, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, through prayer and just being mindful. Take some time maybe today or later and assess what you're doing and where your time is going. If it is filled with a lot of distractions and too much time on the internet or on social media or whatever, those things, it's ironic to me that we call it being connected, but we're the most disconnected people right now. And so just do an assessment of what's going on in your life, and then pray, ask God to show you ways to be effective in your home, in your community, school, your place of business, wherever you are. You can have plenty of opportunities to serve. Simply serve those around you.
Yeah, love it.
So,
awesome.
One more. How can I maintain margin in my schedule to allow for energy and time for others? So we did kind of talk about this.
Talked about that. So important.
Yeah.
And with that social media, I think social media is a tool. It can be a wonderful way to keep connected. But yes, to the extreme, it certainly does disconnect us, I believe, from that face-to-face. And so providing boundaries for yourself, again, to give you the opportunity to not be sucked in, to the digital world. So, Awesome. It's good discussion.
It was,
outward focused and staying outward focused, being in the spirit and being out there to help and serve others, man. What an opportunity, what a blessing.
Yeah.
So
you guys got this. Go serve those around you well.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate y'all, and God bless.
Thank you.